Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to my movie channel. My name is Tom and thank you very much for joining me for this, my completely non-spoilers review for this little tiny low-budget independent movie that no one's really talking about right now, Avengers Infinity War. Now, right off the gate, I have to say this, I really enjoyed watching this movie. This movie is fantastic. The Russo brothers stuck the landing. Somehow, Marvel made this movie work. With, 365,000 characters and all these storylines. They gotta tie some of them up, and they did it. Now let's talk about the main character in this movie, Thanos. You know, the Russo brothers and Marvel have said for a while now that this movie is really going to be Thanos' movie, and he really is the main character of the story, and he will have more screen time than anybody else. And I was kind of thinking, wait, no, that's not right. Surely, our heroes are going to have more screen time than Thanos. Thanos can't be the main character, and oh my god, Thanos is the main character and he has more screen time than anybody else in this entire movie. And Thanos, this will end the discussion, I think, about greatest MCU villains. It might even end the debate about greatest comic book movie villains of all time up until this point, because Thanos is by far the best part of this entire movie. And that's not also saying anything bad or to take away from the performances or the characters or the dynamics of any of the other beloved MCU characters in this film either. It's just saying how well they did with Thanos and how well Josh Brolin portrayed the role. Thanos is captivating every second he was on screen, and I just wanted more and more Thanos. Give me more Thanos, more Thanos, more Thanos, more Thanos. Sometimes, even in scenes that, weren't boring or whatever, they were great scenes with heroes, or, say a scene with Vision, for example. Even in some of those scenes, while they were great scenes and they weren't bad scenes, there's nothing wrong with them, I was still kind of like, no, go back to Thanos. I want more Thanos, man. I wanted more Thanos all throughout this movie. He is the best part of this entire movie. His quest to get these Infinity Stones and wipe out half the universe, that's his goal. We know that from the trailers. It plays out in this movie in such a great way. Speaking of this movie playing out in certain ways, I wanted to talk about the flow of this movie and the editing and the way the movie is structured just for a little bit, because I was worried with so many characters, with so many storylines to tie up. You've seen from the trailers that, you have certain pairings of different characters, and Stark and Spider-Man are over here doing this, Cap and Bucky are in Wakanda doing this, and I was like, okay, and Thor's with the Guardians and they're doing that, and I was worried. I was like, okay, how are you gonna somehow tie all these storylines together? How is this movie gonna flow? Is it gonna feel very choppy? And it really doesn't. They do cut back and forth between the different groups of characters doing whatever they're doing at any point in time, but I never felt like, oh, this feels choppy, it feels really, sloppy editing or anything. I didn't feel that at any point in this film, and that was something that really surprised me, because I wouldn't have been surprised if I'm watching this film and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, you have so many characters to deal with and it just feels really over-convoluted. The film never felt convoluted because of the amount of characters that were in it. I never felt like, oh, it's too many characters for this movie to handle. Never felt like that. Now, I mentioned the combinations of different characters and the character pairings and all that, and what this movie, I think, one of the best parts about this movie, aside from Thanos, is seeing the different characters interact that we've never seen before, whether it be Iron Man and Doctor Strange, who, by the way, in this movie, that's one of my favorite relationships in this movie that play out, is the relationship between Iron Man and Doctor Strange. They have some really awesome moments together. They have some really awesome back and forth dialogue with each other. It's really good. Anything with the Guardians of the Galaxy in this film is absolute gold. And you guys know, if you've seen some of my reviews, I'm not a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2. I really enjoyed 1, didn't like 2 very much at all, and the Guardians have just never really been my thing. In this movie, they're my thing now. I'm in love with the Guardians. Look, it only took 3 movies, but I'm on board now with Guardians of the Galaxy. I really enjoyed them in this movie, and seeing them paired up with the Avengers and different character combinations. You've seen from the trailers, you have Rocket, Groot, and Thor. There's some great back and forth between Thor and Rocket. That was actually another one of my favorite interactions in this film. And the other thing Avengers Infinity War does so well is surprises. This movie is so packed, chock, full, completely overflowing with twists, turns, surprises, things you don't expect. But while they were things you don't expect and they were surprises, they genuinely felt like they weren't put in there to be shocking plot twist or let's put, you know, a certain special appearance here by this just because it's this character. No, they were surprises and there were twists and there were turns that made sense for the story. This movie really didn't ever do anything that didn't make sense for the story of the entire cinematic universe. Anything action related in this film, the fight scenes, the battle scenes, anything with Thanos fighting freaking anybody is awesome. The CGI in this film never once let me down. And I kept thinking like, man, this movie's got such a big budget. I kind of expected there to be some moments where the CGI wasn't, you know, wouldn't look that great, and that moment never happened for me. I mean, maybe it did for some of you, but it certainly didn't for me. I was very, very impressed with the CGI, especially on Thanos and the Black Order, you know, his henchmen, if you will. They aren't given that much screen time and they aren't given that much story development, but I also really enjoyed seeing them as well. They are actually really awesome villains and bad guys, and they have an important part to play in this film. Now, while this movie is full of action and it's full of laughs, and there's a lot of humor sprinkled throughout the movie, the humor never felt forced. I didn't feel like any particular joke went on for too long, but this movie is full of emotion. This movie just hits you in certain places emotionally, just pulls on your emotional heartstrings, and I ate those scenes up. I love how they handled certain characters, certain surprises in this film. You know, one of the things I was wondering going into Avengers Infinity War was, hey, how are they going to explore the relationship between Gamora and Thanos, especially, but also, you know, Nebula and Thanos? And that gets explored in this movie. I'm not going to give anything away, but oh my god, that storyline is one of the best, if not maybe the best sort of subplot going on in this movie. So getting on to my really only main negative about Avengers Infinity War, and that's the length of this film. You know, this movie is over 2.5 hours long, and listen, the movie overall is freaking fantastic. I love this movie. I'm gonna go and see it again before I do my spoilers review, but this movie is fantastic. But there were certain scenes, and not that I was ever bored in any scene in particular, but there were certain scenes that I did feel like, you know, you could have cut them down. There were a couple of scenes in there that I was like, did you really need that scene? Did that scene need to play out for as long as it did? And you could make an argument that those scenes did need to play out for that amount of time. And again, I'm not complaining about any scene in particular. They're all great. This movie's fantastic, like I keep saying. But I did feel like maybe this movie could have been just a little bit shorter. Maybe even by 5 or 10 minutes, just cutting certain things out. You know, there is room to tighten up this movie even more than it already is, and this movie is stacked. So anyway guys, that is my non-spoilers review of Avengers Infinity War. To sum up what I've said again, this movie is fantastic. Thanos is by far the best part of this movie. You are going to walk out loving Thanos in this film. You're going to walk out saying, if Loki is still your favorite MCU villain, after this, Thanos will be your number 2, if not your number 1. So once again guys, thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I have a spoilers review coming for Avengers Infinity War once it opens in the US, because I don't want to, you know, leak spoilers to the world before it's open to the entire world. So thank you once again very much for watching. Go and see Avengers Infinity War. Enjoy the movie, soak it up, soak up the anticipation. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys next time.